Okay, go ahead and call the meeting to order. With all who wish, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have two related proposed agenda adjustments, adding 8D in executive session and 8E approval of an MOU. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 5-0. The agenda is adjusted. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of August 19th and August 26th as presented. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion or corrections? All those in favor? Carries 5-0. I would make a motion to approve warrant 26E, warrant 4 and payroll warrant 4. Is there a second?
A second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Carries 5-0. Floor is open to public comment. The detailed rules are in the agenda, but keep in mind that, keep it short. There's a time limit of a few minutes, and comments about specific employees or students are not allowed, positive or negative. Just discussions of situations in the district. Would anybody like to speak? Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll go ahead and move on to acknowledgements. Jake?
Nothing at this time, thank you, John.
I don't think I have anything. Kevin?
Nothing at this time.
Noah?
I guess I'll just say I'm back on the ballot, uncontested again, and I was just thinking about how I like this board and I appreciate, even though we have real differences of opinion, I really appreciate all of you here, and even when we disagree, and I was just thinking about that, so thank you. As we start the new year, I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great. Mark?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Connor?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and Sophia, appreciate Sophia zooming in the car from a soccer game.
Nothing at the moment, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Meredith?
I had a few. First, I want to thank Lynn Gray and others for stepping in to fill gaps in the business office right now. Lynn's doing, the lion's share of the work, but others are also pitching in. So we want to I just appreciate those efforts. Want to thank and acknowledge SRO Patterson for leading some recent training for staff. He led some training for the middle and high school staff this past week on the early release day, and we'll do so the same training for ASA in October. So appreciate him doing that. And since we've last met, we had the grand lighting ceremony out at the field. So just want to acknowledge that the lights are up and operational, and want to thank friends and all of the donors, and Laura Mitchell in particular for her passionate efforts to see this project to completion. That's all at this time.
Great.
And the acknowledgement that's listed on the agenda.
Yep.
The Lynch family donated $250 to the Asa Adams Library in memory of Vicki Lynch, who was a staff member at the school.
Great, thank you. We'll start with principal reports. Carrie?
Good evening, everyone. I will start off with a big thank you to all the staff for welcoming back our students with lots of smiles and a lot of joy. It's been a busy couple of weeks. It feels like more than what it has been, but everyone is adjusting back to the routines of school. And I will also add a thank you to the Lynch family. Seeing that on the agenda reminded me that they also donated school supplies to ASA in remembrance of Vicki Lynch's birthday. So we appreciate that greatly. They go to good use for sure. So I will just highlight a couple of things really quick from my report. The first was we made a change to our open house this year. We held open house on Monday, March 25th for all students in pre-K to grade 5. Previously, we had only done an open house prior to school for K and pre-K. Then we made a switch and we added in a couple of grades last year. But this year we did the entire school, and it has come with good feedback from families saying that it helped reduce the anxiety and worries that some students may have had prior to that first day. Being able to meet their teacher, see where their classroom was, and feel more confident on that first day of school. So that was a welcome change, and I think we will continue with that. Another quick highlight is that tomorrow at our staff meeting, we're going to start our planning for Habits of Mind implementation. So that's always exciting work. And we're making some changes in that this year a little bit too. We're looking to try to integrate more project-based learning with the upper grades, so 3, 4, and 5, and continuing with our current protocol in K through 2, where they do more of a rotation small group lesson kind of opportunity for learning. And then finally, I'll say on our first early release day, we had a great day of professional development. Teachers in 3, 4, and 5 spent time with the MyView trainer and had the opportunity to dig in more around that new resource that they have this year. And teachers at the K2 level had the opportunity to do more planning and prep work with the fish tank materials. So we're off to a good start and it feels good. So I will conclude there and if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Oh, we'll go ahead and move on to the middle school. Richard.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here tonight. Like Carrie said, I think I can echo that we had a very good start to the school year at the middle school with very few wrinkles. And so I'm really excited to be able to have all the rich offerings, all the rich academic offerings that we have for kids built into our new schedule. And so we had few wrinkles, but over the opening weeks, I think we got to have all the students in the right classes and the right seats and all of that into the new schedule. So, anyways, kudos to teachers and staff and everyone for their work on the start of the school year. And we have some changes that we're planning coming up. And one thing is our parent conference format. So we're working currently with our department leadership team, and we're looking at ideas to make conferences more meaningful for students and parents this fall. And kind of what we're thinking is we got away from true student-led conferences the last couple of years, and we kind of want to get back to that. And so we're looking at some ways that we can make that a good experience coming in November. And we're thinking ahead to NWA testing. I think we nailed down our testing dates, October 6th and 7th, coming up in a couple of weeks, and that will kick off our fall testing. That time is sort of toward the early middle of the testing window, so it gives us lots of time in case there's snags and to do makeups and that sort of thing. Let's see, hats off to Jason and Melissa down in the IT department for having our iPads and laptops ready for students. We had them in student hands since last week, and tomorrow, right during our advisory period, we're holding a school-wide assembly, our first school-wide assembly of the year, and to talk about expectations for taking technology devices home. So parents can look for that over the next couple of days, iPads and laptops going home. What else do we have? Our enrollment is certainly up. We're at 169 with 69, the record going to 6th grade, 69 students currently enrolled in 6th grade. Our smallest grade is our 8th graders with 45, and 7th grade comes kind of in between with 55 students. So numbers are up quite a bit from the last couple of years. I'm pleased to note that this year our backpack program is back up and running, and this is helps many families. And we are looking for donations like shelf stable items, examples: cereal, oatmeal, granola bars, canned fruit, etc., like those types of things. And our athletic season is up in full swing. Everything's going right now. And this week is our busiest week with fall athletics. So that's what I have from the middle school.
Great, thank you. Any questions? We'll move on. Sam at the high school.
So I'm going to talk and hopefully you guys can hear me.
You have to mute.
I am. Hold on.
Now I am?
Yeah.
Okay. I was on one spot with the other. Sorry. I want to echo just like what everyone else said, so I always sound like being the last person. I'm echoing everything. But it was a really great start to the year, and we had a lot of changes, a lot of new things. happening, a lot of new people at the high school. And I just really, my thank yous go out to anyone and everyone who was a part of that, and any which you were, all stakeholders, just thanks so much, because it really was a great, positive and smooth start to our school year. A piece of that was our student ambassadors, once again, worked together this year with Holly and Troy from Guidance, who are now our student ambassador advisors, to really welcome that class of 2029. That class is our biggest class currently at the high school, which is pretty exciting. And they ambassadors really helped to make that day an opportunity for them to get to know each other, get to know us, get to know the school, and it was a really great, successful day. You know, Meredith already mentioned, but the soccer field light ceremony was fantastic. Me having been here for as long as I have, it was really fun to see some of the alumni people come back and play with some of the kids. And, you know, some of the alumni were like, Runco, I can still play like I did back then, and they could for a little bit. And they did a really great job, and it was really, really fun. So thank you to everybody who worked hard to get the lights, but also to make that night special. And for those who came back to be a part of it, it was really, really cool. I'm gonna be talking a little bit later on about the cell phone work we've been doing at the high school, but very, very successful, very excited about that. And as Richard mentioned, you know, not only thanks to IT and our staff for helping with the computers and the rollout, but the parents and the guardians worked really hard to get all that paperwork completed so that kids could get those laptops in their hands to be able to start the work. And we too are changing our open house a little bit. We used to, until this year, do it the evening of the ninth grade day. But we wanted to try to have it a little later where there was more information to share, more relationships formed. And hopefully some of the older students may want to also bring their families in to sort of try to increase our numbers. So we're actually having it coming up on the 16th. It'll still be the same, you know, way of being able to just informally walk around, meet the students, meet the staff, see the school. But we're also gonna have an informational session for the Watershed Academy, which is my next shout out. That has been going really, really well. They've been having great opportunities with the teachers. The teachers have been really working on collaborating to provide the best opportunities, but really, you know, form those rigorous cross curriculum learning opportunities. I'm excited to join that meeting with that group next week. But that will be presented to the parents a little bit, with some kids even sharing some insights and some photos and stuff in the OPAC at the kickoff of our open house. So we hope a lot of families will join us, because it's gonna be a fun event. Additionally, we've also been looking at our fall assessments. We are doing that a little different this year. We are going to, instead of testing students all in one day for 9th and 10th, we're going to break it out and use their math and ELA learning opportunities, and use the watershed groups to help us do that as well. And then grade 11 and senior SEM grade 11 will do PSATs, and senior seminar will be on October 1st, our early release day, which is another opportunity for Watershed to spend some extended time together. And grade 10 is gonna look at some technology resources, as well as some advisory activities, and all 4 grades will complete their student success plans. So we're really looking forward and hoping that breaking it up will make it less, you know, heavy for kids, less, you know, exhausting for kids, and hopefully really help them to be able to reflect accurately where they are in their learning. And then, you know, thank you again, as Meredith said, to Officer Dan Patterson and everyone else who helped with the ALICE training, and many other of our safety initiatives that are still up and coming and being worked on. Just truly thank you for that. And lastly, part of the Yonder Pouch thing, which I may not get to, is Derek. It was much more cumbersome to get those magnets on the brick walls than I had anticipated, so thank you, Derek. Cause he came back, I was like, that was really hard. So I just really appreciate him helping me get all of those up around the outside of the school, as difficult as it may be.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, move on to the superintendent report.
Well, I'll just be the final person to echo that we've had a nice smooth start to the school year in all buildings. It's you know, even though, you know, every summer brings changes, in each school, it's just been a really positive start. So that's been really nice, and I think everyone is feeling that energy to start the year. So from even with some initiatives like, kids don't, not all kids love the cell phone policy, right? But, it's still a positive atmosphere that folks are seeing and feeling across our schools. I want to tell you about something we're starting this year with our new teaching staff, new to Orono teaching staff. So, some of those individuals are very experienced in, other places they worked, and some are new to the profession. But we're having all of those individuals go through a series of meetings throughout the course of the year that's just designed to help them get to know the district and form kind of a cohort together where we can provide information, but also a forum for just discussion and support. That's starting next week. And some of our planned topics to get started are things like communication and preparing for conferences, or how to prep for an IEP meeting, or some of the work that Sam does around McKinney-Vento and Title IX that we want to make sure those staff are aware of, because we just did that with all staff last year, and so they might need to know a little bit more about that and other topics. And we're going to survey those individuals as well, see if there are other topics they want us to add in particular. So we have 8 new teaching staff across the district. Well, we have a lot more support staff that are new, but 8 new teaching staff. So they'll be compensated for the time. It's just an hour once a month. And we rolled this out to them when we had orientation, but we're looking forward to this and providing support throughout the year for those individuals. I don't have many specifics to tell you about this, but I want to tell you that it's on our radar. We've been working and thinking about our attendance data since we, were talking about that last spring, and have actually made a couple of moves that we think are going to be impactful, but they're still ramping up. One is an add-on to our Power School system that adds a lot of data elements that are easier to view and monitor, but also with that, they have a lot of communication options that can help communications be more user-friendly and impactful with families. We've also attended, several of us attended a workshop this summer, and we're sharing that information with the admin team. And then a couple people are attending something at the end of the month. Both of those involve a statewide organization that's called Count Me In, that their whole mission is around student engagement and attendance in school. And they have really good resources and support. So we're working on that and look forward to sharing more with you when we decide, kind of beyond our attendance intervention suite with Power School, if there are any specific interventions or changes that we are going to make. We talked about the training that Officer Patterson did. That was Alice training. It's training around responding to potential active intruders, and new frameworks for how really we should be thinking about that compared to how we thought about it in the past, which is, a big shift for folks. And so we're going to do that same training with the ASA Adams staff. And then we're also working simultaneously on how to talk to students about these changes, because over time, when researchers look at events and think about, what should we learn from those, we get new recommendations. And that's what this Alice training is. It's really providing us with some updated recommendations around how schools and staff and students can consider options in emergencies. So that's what that training's about. We did talk about a parent communication that will be, as with all of our emergency response communications, kind of vague, because we don't give all of our specific responses out, but will be similar to what we talk to students in terms of, the training has been that, you close and lock the door and you go to the corner and you're really quiet and you're all crouched in one place out of sight. And in some cases that might be the best thing to do, but that's not always the best thing to do. But people are so conditioned to that's the only thing you should do in those emergencies that they really don't consider other options, and they should. So that's what this training was about. So that's what Alice training is in a nutshell, and we're talking about how to talk with students in age appropriate ways about that. Alongside that, the COPS grant projects are still in progress. The timeline looks like end of October now, as with always, you know, expected timeframes seem to shift. But it's looking like everything would be operational by that time. New PA, the badges, all the door controls, the video system. So we're looking forward to having those in place. It's been a busy start for lots of reasons, but one of the things that we were doing, just a few of us actually were involved in this, was taking the final step on our bond series that we had planned for when we took out our large bond back in 2019. So just to summarize, the bond structure was split into two portions. The voters authorized $16.875 million. And we took out a let me get my numbers in front of me, a $12.145 million bond. And then we took the other 4.7 million and put it into a financing structure that was going to have three different smaller bonds that traded out one for the next over time. And that was to delay the principal payment for as long as possible, to wrap around some existing debt that we wanted to retire before we started the principal on the other. So it was just a really creative way to help manage the overall debt for the district. So this was the final step in the three-step series for that $4.7 million. And so that went out. We did ratings during the month of August and into early September. Every time we do this, we have to go and have another Moody's rating and another Standard & Poor's rating. Our ratings didn't change from the last time we did this. And then we put our bond out for sale. And I was pleasantly surprised, and our bond advisor and Brian, we all agree that we were pleasantly surprised by the results, given the market's changed a lot since we took out our first bond in 2019. And what we had predicted about costs, you know, in 2025 then were based on, you know, rates in 2019. But overall, when you look at the big picture, we're doing okay against what was predicted then. One thing that we did along the way is that 4.7 million has been reduced a couple times. So now we're at the point of only needing to take a $4,205,000 bond instead of a $4,700,000 bond. So that helps. Our inflation or our interest cost for this bond was 3.859, which isn't terrible, right? But when the real picture, when I brought copies, I'm sorry, I should have given you these. The real picture that I wanted to compare and share with you is around how it compares to what we had planned for. So this first page just shows you this particular bond that we just took out for 4.2 million with the rate that I mentioned. But on the second page, it shows how all of our debt service adds together compared to what we projected. So if you look at where we are this year, for example, the 25-26 year, you can see that we still have this year and next year on the QSAB loan column. And then that debt is done. You can see for 25-26, we had projected that we would have, $1,138,000 and $559. And what we actually are going to have is 1.2 million. If you go over to the actual payments column in the actual. So that's an increase of 92,000 over what we expected. But that was really more as a result of the last round of bond that we took out. Not this round, but the last round, because that interest rate was the worst that we've had on that bond that was just before this one. So we're paying the last payment on the bond that the band. It was a bullet bond. Because the first one was a band, the second one was a bullet bond, and this one is a regular bond. So really the increase in cost over what was projected was really because of the interest rate from that bullet bond. But if you look at next year, we get closer. The projected variance for 2026 is, if you look at the 51,000 in the projected column compared to the highlighted 76,000, it's only about $25,000 off. But then when you go down, our savings really escalate more rapidly over time. If you can see, like by the year 28, 29, instead of less than $30,000 less than we had projected, we're $37,000 less than we projected. Because what we were trying to do initially was have this even $1.17 million payment each year. But I think part of this is because we reduced our debt by 500,000 from the 4.7 to the 4.2 now. But I think also just all the combined interest ended up a little better also than we maybe projected that we would be. So overall, in the end, instead of paying 25,700,000, we're paying more like just almost 23 million. So that's a good savings over time, like $3 million less or $3.5 million less than we anticipated. So I know that's a lot of numbers to throw at you, but this is the final step and something we've been working toward for 6 years. And I just wanted everyone to kind of know the result and know that our bond advisor is pleased with the outcome. And I feel like we are in a good position with this. And I'm glad that it happened this year as opposed to maybe a year or two ago when we had the bullet bond and the interest was not as favorable as it is now. Did you add anything to that, Brian?
I mean, a couple things, like you said, this means all of our payments are locked in at this point, so we can count on the schedule. We haven't been in that place until the sale, so. And I think a key point there is we actually reached peak payment 2 times ago, right? The 1.3 million in 2024, 2025. So the part of this is because school bonds are not like your home payments where they're equal payments. They're principal plus you have to have constant principal payments. So right in a home mortgage, you might only pay off 5% of your principal, 5% of a 1 month's worth of your principal upfront. And you're mostly paying 85–90% interest, whereas here we're paying the same principal every time, and the interest is changing and going down. So school bonds are by law front loaded, but if you look, if you look down that column of actual payments, money, we're not going to be rich all of a sudden, but money's starting to free up 100,000, 200,000. Date out 500,000. So I think there's a conversation about what to do with that money, right? Maybe this is a conversation during budget, but that's something to note and start thinking about. I certainly, in my mind, it's hard for me not to connect that to the middle school and the increased payments we need to make at the middle school. But obviously the taxpayers would like to see taxes going down too. So, but there is a conversation to be had there. What was the other thing I was gonna say? I can't remember, it'll come back to me, but I mean, I would say, I mean, Meredith, I know you spent a lot of time on this and Lynn did too, so I appreciate that. Oh, I know the other thing was the conversation with the rating agency was quite interested about reserve funds.
Yes, both of them are, yeah.
I didn't get to hear the second one, but the first one was basically, well, you guys, the national average for schools is 20% of the budget in reserves. But the state of Maine is not at that, right? And he knew why, and we repeated that conversation. The state law is now 9%, that just got reapproved. It was 3%, and there was a temporary, after COVID, it was like, oh geez, we need reserves. So they allowed 9%. I think what they told us of the 10 or so schools that they had done ratings for, the average reserve was 12% of a year's budget, and we were at 16% of a year's budget. Right, so you can look at that different ways. We're not at the national average of 20%. We're above the state average of 12%. Anyway, when we get to the budget season and talk about reserve funds, I think that information was pretty interesting to hear. And it did affect us. The fact that we're not at 20% caused our bond rating to be somewhat lower than it might have been. Otherwise, it's nothing, we necessarily have control over, and I don't think we're going to have our bonds again, so that's not necessarily something we should be chasing, but more to me, just getting the statistics on reserves. We have that conversation every year as part of the budget process, so. Sorry, anything?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I looked up about our ratings, and both of the rating documents talk about that while we're strong and have strong financially and have low risk, we have lower than average financial reserves. And that is a part of the rating downgrade for us, but they recognize that we don't have much choice in the matter. But it is definitely a factor.
Remind me, I thought by main law, we could only have so much in reserve.
It used to be 3%, the law just got permanently changed to 9%. And we're up at 16%, right? That's the tension. On the one hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, if our whole goal in life was to get the best bond rating, we should be up to 20 or 25%. On the other hand, we don't want to stick our heads up too much above. We've always been above the state average, as has all districts, but we don't want to stick out egregiously from that state law of 9%, right? So that's not to mention taxpayers like to get their money back. So that's the two sides of the coin that we're trying to navigate.
And it's also 9% that's undesignated, and we designate a lot of our reserves. So we could go higher because, I mean, we designate technically, I'd have to pull that document up, but almost 50% of our reserves each year, because almost a million goes into the budget. We're above $1 million, I think, with that. And then we have additional going to laptop replacement schedule. We have money going to capital reserve every year. So we're up at least 50% that's technically dedicated to the budget each year. More than that.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that million that goes into the carry forward is pretty close to unreserved. I don't know.
But that's not how
Don't know how to
it's
count it.
Yeah, no, that's
Right.
not how it's seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because, like Lynn always says, that's designated. You can't say that we're not spending that. And
Yeah.
that's how the auditor sees it as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it feels good, as Brian said, to not be in this uncertain landscape of, we don't know what's coming with the next bond. But, I'm really pleased. And this year, I looked at what we budgeted this year, and I need to connect with Lynn after payroll submitted. But we budgeted, because our interest was so high on this last small bond, we budgeted assuming that our interest would be as high on this bond. So that gives us, I think, around $40,000 extra in our debt service line for this year, because it came in lower than anticipated. But I need to confirm that Lynn views that the same way I do, because the challenge is on the revenues, on the expenditure side, we build in the costs that get paid back from Glenburn. And so I just want to make sure I'm subtracting all the numbers that need to be subtracted from the revenue side that we get in as revenues from Glenburn. Which will come into play when we have another conversation later, that extra $40,000 in their brain. The last thing I wanted to just mention was we have an interview committee coming up for the OMS special ed teacher who I told you is retiring in October. And so we're looking for a board member to be on that interview committee with Lisa and friends. Kevin, you are so faithful to volunteer for Lisa's committee. I know she appreciates that.
I appreciate this, though.
Thank you. And that's all I have, but do you have questions? Because I kind of talked fast and went through a lot. Sorry.
I have a question. The new teachers you're bringing on, the little community practice or whatever, it sounds really great opportunity. It seems like those sorts of things. I think you can get a lot done. I was sort of wondering if we talked a little bit in the strategic planning thing about having little communities of practice to like help advance like active learning and some of those other things. Are you gonna sort of tie in some of that while they're developing curricula, like some of that into those that community, that network, or?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Susan and I were just talking today. That's why she's smiling over there. We were talking about how we're moving forward with our work around student engagement, critical thinking, and student resilience. And really the approach we're taking this year with a lot of our professional development time around those two big realms really boils down to communities of practice kind of work as, you know, large groups together. So that'll be happening with everyone. So it could come over into the new teacher group. But it also is going to be happening on a, you know, larger scale with the professional development time. We kind of, Susan will talk more about this, or she talked about it last meeting, but now that we're kind of developing more structure around it, we'll be talking about it actually at our strategic plan meeting next week. All staff have the opportunity to elect into one of three choices, three strands for professional development this year. Student engagement, student resilience, or literacy. And so one of the approaches in that is, you know, some communities that practice around those topics.
Right, for smaller groups,
Yeah.
working together, yeah.
Spinning that around, I also think some of the teacher hires in recent years might help us with the process of bringing
Yeah.
engaging teaching practices into the district as well too. Right, different perspectives and different ideas, so.
Seems like a good opportunity with new hires and small groups and
Yeah.
so.
We're excited about it.
Anything else for the superintendent? We'll go ahead and move on to the cell phone implementation update.
Hi guys. So Meredith's gonna help put up a slideshow that I created. But while that's going up, since our last meeting, we've done a lot of work to prep for when the students came on day one. We did hold the sessions, the information sessions for the faculty. And then I held one for the community and then one for the students. I think all of those went very well. I wanna thank the students, the two of you here, but everyone else, like even when giving that, it was evident that they were listening to me. It was evident that they were interested. It was very clear that they had some questions, but they were really respectful, allowed me to get through the presentation, and then took a lot of their questions either to their advisors, because they had advisor right after where they got their pouches, and or quite a few of them would email me afterwards or come see me or had meetings with their families. I got some phone calls afterwards, so it was a great opportunity, I think, to provide that base information and then to be able to have them kind of live it and then keep coming back with questions. While that was happening, if you remember, we'd created a pre-launch survey. And 3 different versions were created to go out to the different stakeholder groups. So one was for students, one was for staff, and one was for parents and guardians. And so I put together some of the data. I think I was really excited when looking through all the data at what the information it provided. A lot of it, what excited me is that a lot of what came up as concerns or things we need to think about or address, we already had, or we've been talking about it, or I had had those private meetings with, individual students or families to meet needs and concerns. So it was really, I don't know, I felt proud that I didn't read anything in there that was like, where's that coming from, or we hadn't thought of that. And so that was really good work. So I was really pleased to know, and I let our onboarding team know that was what I had seen. But the first, yeah, I just put together 3 quick slides with some of the questions, and then some of the feedback that we received. So with the staff, what was really interesting is that 32 responded, and kind of not matching necessarily the data from in the spring. When we said, how many are you in support of the phone-free school? It was, pretty much almost even, as strongly support or strongly against. My thoughts about that might be because in the spring, it was more of this idea of what we were gonna do, whereas in the fall, they had more questions about, well, how's this gonna happen? How is that gonna actually look on the ground? What's gonna happen, who will actually follow through with such and such? How we meet certain kids' needs. So I think those questions and just the kind of wanting to wait and live it with the yonder pouches is maybe where some of that numbers are from. And looking at the actual comments made by some of the staff members in the survey would support some of that thinking. But at the same time, overall, when he said, when we asked how would the phone-free school environment help with their engagement or their connection with others, definitely over, 60% on both areas believe that it would be supportive for the kids. Some of the benefits, as we've talked about, which was good to have them reflect on those, was increased interactions, decreased distractions, being able more focus in their work. Hopefully, the less stress and better mental health overall for our students, and less drama. Where some of the concerns were the pushback from some students and parents, and how much that might be, affect our work and the onboarding process in those first few days. Making sure we have the consequences and that we all work together to see it through, and concerns about emergencies. There were a few people who were still wondering if we should have stuck to, having them available during what?
No, we're just trying to,
Oh, having them available during lunch or break still, wondering if we're setting the kids up, realistically for a real life that they'll have, when they're going into their job and they're moving from one thing to another and being able to have the phone and then put it away in a healthy way and then go back to it when they can. So there were a few of those, and then also there was some questions about some educational purposes and being able to use them, which we did address, and I'll get later in a later slide, I'll talk about. So then, with the students, there were 65 responses, which was really good. And it felt like they were honest. So in that one, it was, I, highlighted some of the same questions. How supportive are you of it? In this case, it was definitely, almost 50%, 46.3 supported it and strongly supported it. So that was really good to see.
That was
And
different from the earlier data too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they also saw that it would bring about, some said that they didn't think it would help with engagement. But then others, and especially in the comments, you could see where maybe some of that matched in the numbers. And then, with the help with the connection, again, they thought no, but a lot of talking to kids, they think when they're sitting there with their phone next to a friend, we're still connecting. So I think there was a question when we were reviewing this data and talking about it with our onboarding group about, well, what does connection mean to them? Is that what they think as connection? So no, I can have my phone and still connect with the two of them, versus what we're talking about is actually making eye contact and talking to each other without the phones in our space. But it was nice to see that some of the benefits were very similar to what the staff had said. But they also did comment that teachers won't have to be phone police. There's actually a few kids that say teachers can be teachers, not phone police. But they also talked about the less drama, preventing some fights, being able to focus, being able to have those face-to-face. Concerns were also kind of similar, worried about during emergencies, how are we gonna contact our family, friends, and employers during the day. There was some concern vocalized about the increase possibly in mental health and anxiety because of, their reliance on the phones. And some kids even said addiction, I have an addiction to my phone, I don't know what's gonna happen when I can't have it. So that was kind of interesting that some did say Can we still have them during lunch and breaks? They mentioned, as well as you'll see with the families, a concern about the increase in use of laptops. You know, because they're putting their phone away, would the laptops be utilized more often? And there were some students who said that they thought it really wasn't fair because their group of friends generally followed the rule. And it wasn't fair that they felt that a few other students who couldn't follow the rules in the past resulted in this. So then, as I said, with parents, this was a pleasant response as well, 125 responses. As far as the phone-free environment and what they felt, if it would be beneficial, 48% here said they strongly agree, whereas only 12 said disagree. So a majority of them really felt like it was a positive move for our school. They also, overwhelmingly thought that it would definitely help with the connection and with their engagement in the school. So that's good. And again, the same comments, very, very similar. There really wasn't much difference, except there was a recognition of the reduction in cyberbullying, because quite a couple of the parents had experiences for their child with cyberbullying, and so they were hoping that would lessen at least during the school day. But other than that, their concerns kind of match the kids for the most part. Except the one that they did is they were worried if their kid might miss the bus. They were worried about the communication from particularly coaches and if things change in the afternoon, like, will the Google email suite be used so that in time for them to know versus their kid picking up their phone and texting them real quick. And they did mention the concern about the real world and not being prepared. So we took this data, because I presented the data to the staff, gave them an opportunity to talk to them about it in our last staff meeting. We also looked at, how it's going overall for them. And unanimously, they were saying it's been great. Like the onboarding process in the first few days of schools has felt very healthy. And to be fair, a lot of them, including me, was like surprised at how well it went. I do think, and I have to give credit to our team, because we worked hard to prepare so that we were ready. And we had tried to have as many of those communications with individual families and kids as we could, and we tried to think of all the what ifs or this, that's, or the other things to be ready. But some of the things we thought about, adjustments we made in those first few days based on what we still lived, was we did increase our magnet availability. And we also talked more about where logistically people were. And we found that was particularly necessary during the first few days as kids learned where they were put outside the building. Now, even like today, there's very few people that are kind of in the lobby waiting to use the magnet. They just kind of go out whatever door they go out and use the one on the walls. Or they wait and they do it as they're being dismissed for a soccer game, or they maybe do come up and get it from us in the lobby. But it's not like the first couple of days, all of them came to the lobby, kind of thinking that that's where we go. So it was a little congested, but still, even on that day, nobody missed the bus, which was great. So there was no that kind of issue going on. It was just trying to teach them, okay, there's other locations and people you can see. We did talk about field trips and educational purposes. And we discussed as a staff that we're lucky and fortunate that we have quite a few cameras available through yearbook or through some science classes or art classes, that those teachers spoke up and said, hey, if you want to have your students have an opportunity to take pictures when they're doing things with you, whether it's a field trip out in the back or whether it's somewhere on, on a bus, just sign them out. You can use those. But also we said we do have some of the mobile ones that a teacher could easily come in. So we put it as part of the field trip form that they can fill it out and say, I would like to need a magnet for this purpose, and they can come see me, and it's part of the field trip approval and planning process would be whether that would be something that would be beneficial and helpful to the kids' experience. As I said, I continue to have individual meetings to address concerns when necessary. We have started our Yonder pouch checks last week. What we chose to do is not interrupt class time, so we did it during study halls. And when I say we, now that it's beyond that first week and a half of school, the teachers are not reminding kids that we're asking the teachers, just be with the kids, just teach the kids and have fun with them. If you see a kid with a phone or you hear the phone or you see a watch, send them our way, meaning me, Mr. Terrell or Mr. Mansfield, and we'll talk with them, we'll address it. And same with the underpouch check, it's the three of us that kind of go out and, you know, if we see anything, we pull a kid aside and we have that conversation and give the appropriate consequence. And with the underpouch checks, we're the ones that come in and say, hey, can we see your pouch? So we did that in study halls last week. This week, we're just kind of giving it a breath, letting it kind of settle some more. We're gonna do another random, yonder pouch check next week. We just have to figure out exactly when. And then the yonder pouch team is coming on the 23rd, and part of that is we have to do a check. So we have to decide when, but we don't want to always do it in study halls. We want to kind of make it random, and we don't want to interrupt the learning process for the kids with the staff. But so far, either with the yonder pouch checks or just kids, unfortunately, maybe being caught with their phone or what have you, 16 cell phone violations have occurred. 2 of those are repetitive offenders already. So we're working through that. We're working through with the families. We found another great opportunity to connect with families and work with families on helping their kid and having that conversation. And it's been met with great support from the families thus far that we've had to hold a kid accountable for. So we are just to do things we want to make sure we continue thinking about as we move forward. Just continue to communicate with stakeholders, continue to share what information we can, be available, you know, as things maybe come up for students and families and staff. Continue to schedule the under pouch checks throughout the year. Not so they're not all the time, but so that the kids know we're still paying attention, we still find it very important, and you know, holding them accountable. As I said, they're coming on the 23rd, which will be interesting to see what they have to say and the feedback they give us. And then the team wants to create post-launch check like surveys somehow. So we have to really think about what are the questions we want that to ask. Also being aware that we have talked many times about how often we survey everybody. But those pre-launch ones were really helpful. They really were. And so how can we get that data, help us see how it's gone and areas that we may need to adjust or not moving forward and when. And then just continuing to work together as a community to follow through not only this, but just follow through with the things we ask of our students and staff as a community so that our community continue to feel what I'm feeling, and I hope you guys are, just a really positive start to the school year. And, you know, really great things happening and that this is just a part of that puzzle that we put into place this year.
Great.
So that's the information we had to share, but we have questions, thoughts, feedback.
That sounds good. So are you noted? I mean, is there like is it changed anything in thinking, Michelle? Like, you know.
I'd be interested to see what they say, but I notice it, yeah. I especially notice it in the mornings. Like, you know, kids some of them have already started to lock their phones up when they first walk in the building. Instead of like we would in the beginning, I would stand in the lobby and, you know, Mr. Terrell and Mr. Mansfield are down the hall near the cafeteria in that back entranceway. And kids would come in and want to unlock their pouch because we tell them to keep them locked, even when your phone's not in there, to protect the pouch. So they'd come right in and where's the mat? Where's the mat? Now they're like, oh no, you know, I already put it in. I'm already all set. Like you know, I'm just gonna or they'll walk by. I'm like, don't you need to at the morning bell? Don't you need to? I already did it. I've just been chilling out. It's no big deal. The lunchroom is awesome. Because they're talking, they're interacting, they're connecting in the way that we meant when we say connecting. But it's not like some people are like, it's gonna be crazy in there. It's not. The kids are interacting, they're having fun. Is it a little louder? Yeah, but it's good. It's a good loud. It's interesting because when I get complaints about, you know, cell phone, social media, drama stuff, it's always, I saw this after school, or this came in the evening, instead of it happening during the day. And so there is that piece from it that the kids are experiencing that's not impacting our day as much, that I'm already noticing just in when I get text messages or emails about something I have to deal with the following day. It's not happening during the day. And then I just see them like interacting in the halls instead of doing this and like literally running into each other, though I do that and I don't even have a phone in my face. But they're talking, they're laughing, they're saying hello, they're making eye contact. They're communicating with the staff that are outside of the door. So I definitely do, and our staff do as well. They echoed my what I've been seeing in our faculty meeting last week.
In the classroom too.
Yeah, the classroom, they say the engagement's up, the communication, the involvement, they say that they're able to get kids more like interested in what they're talking about, they don't have to repeat themselves as much. One teacher said, I don't have to say it 5 times, it's now down to 3, I'm like, great. So like, I do think, we're noticing, we're still just like, 2 weeks in a little bit, so they're just getting, some of the classes are just starting to get into the meat, but watershed, huge. They say that definitely having this a part of the watershed experience for the 9th graders is huge. And they have cameras and stuff that still, occasionally will take pictures of their projects or whatever, but the phones are not a part of it. And so that I've gotten great feedback from those teachers. But I mean, I don't know, you guys are living it too, but I think I think we are noticing a positive difference.
Connor, Sophia, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I definitely would echo what Ms. Runko had been saying, where there's been a positive impact, where people are being more connected, especially during passing periods, I feel. I unfortunately am never at lunch because I leave early every day, but I've heard from others that there's been a lot more just like sitting and talking with others, not as much just sitting alone in a corner on a phone. There will be like occasional instances where you see a student on a phone during something because they didn't have it in a pouch, but it's like very rarely, and also it's like for a very brief instance, and I haven't seen anyone on their phone instead of listening to a teacher.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm there for lunch for maroon days, so I thought it would initially be kind of awkward with my friends. I thought maybe we wouldn't find things to talk about, but we ended up finding things to talk about, which was great, and I thought it was easier to talk to them. So I would say it's a positive experience so far.
Great. I mean, I will say that for a big, logistically complex, controversial implementation, this has been the smoothest that I could have possibly imagined, and I think that mostly goes down to preparation. So kudos, a lot of work I know went into this over the summer, and so kudos to you, Sam, and the rest of the team.
Yeah.
I think this could have gone very differently, and I think the fact it didn't goes down to the amount of work that happened this summer.
Thank you.
Don't jinx it.
But
Yeah,
I even had a student today or actually the two, one today, one yesterday, who wanted to call their employers or a hopeful employer. And came up and they said, Uncle, can I use your office phone and can you talk to me? Like, what should I talk to them about? How should? So it's also opening up these conversations that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise because they just would have called their employer or texted their employer or whatever. And so I'm like, well, role play with B. And it's just, I really see a very positive, and as you're saying, like getting out of those awkward spaces of what the heck do I say to this person and finding that it's not as hard as you think and it's actually really enjoyable. So it's been really nice.
good. Anything else?
Just hearing this, it sort of brings tears to my eyes, hearing like the connection that you guys are making now. So I'm just really happy for it.
All right. Next up, I forget, do we have any co-curricular
We
nominations?
do.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the slate of co-curriculars as presented. Is there a second?
I second.
So this involves Elizabeth Hardison, middle school girls B soccer coach, Katie Quirk, OMS OHS science fair coordinator, second year trial, and Tracy Layan as Ed Tech recertification committee at ASA. Any questions? All those in favor of the slate? Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I'm in favor.
No, it was behind his head from my perspective, but I got you.
I was in favor.
Pass 5-0. Okay. Next up, we have the contract for SRF engineering. Meredith has put that in her folder. Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. One of the things that we heard from the Department of Education, school construction team, when we went down to talk with them about our middle school construction application rating, is that the more specific we can be in SREF applications with engineering support for testing or facility assessment, the better. And given our two of our projects that we hope to submit applications for are around indoor air quality. I think there's quite a bit of engineering support that's needed to write a compelling application. And so I feel like the costs around these are really because of that. And when I was talking with the engineer who's leading, who submitted this for us, Jared Mary, and because I was just questioning the amount of the proposal. And he said that he really has to get to the point of, doing that assessment and then speccing out what's needed in order to put together a proposed budget. So it really gets us pretty far down the road of if we're awarded, being ready to move pretty quickly. There'll still have to be some detailed specs written and for advertisement, but there's a lot of the engineering work that will be done as a result of putting together the applications. So I feel like it's a fair proposal.
Yeah, I would agree. It is a little more complicated than some of the things like bathrooms aren't ADA compliant, so we have to fix them. We have to make a case for some of them. And I said this to Jared, but I sure hope the first, second floor high school, we test the air quality in the rooms as they actually are used, not as the theoretical when you turn on the tab units, because I don't know, Sam, what's your sense about how often the tab units are just turned off in that wing?
Honestly, I don't know. I'll have to look into it. I honestly don't know.
Might be worth us just asking the
Yeah.
teachers, how often do you turn on your tab or turn off your
Yeah,
tab?
I'd have to ask that.
When we were talking to people during COVID, I had a sense that they all just turned them off. So we should just make sure we measure those conditions. But with the tab?
I think sometimes during COVID, it was because it was cold,
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah,
because we were doing so many air exchanges that it was just really
it
cold.
was really cold.
yeah.
But yes, it's worth checking to make sure that we're capturing that in use.
Yeah, the real tab is the acronym for
Terminal.
the type of,
Terminal air blend.
terminal air blend, the type of HVAC that's in the second two-story part of the high school. It's the last air conditioning we haven't upgraded since 2011.
So we're talking about like CO2 and CO concentrations. Is there a particular, like, do we think their air quality isn't good? Like, do we have?
No, we don't have a specific
Okay.
known concern. We just want to build a case to get the state to help us pay for it.
And we do have like CO monitors and stuff in there.
We just know that during COVID,
Yeah.
that area but the ASA for second grade wing was the most challenging area. And then that area was the next most challenging area to make adjustments for high quality filtration that we were trying to achieve during COVID. It was really easy in all the Univent spaces.
I will say I have a colleague who teaches, not an RSU 26, but a tertiary institution around here, who took a CO2 monitor in the classroom and got 1450, which is enough that people are falling asleep and having headaches. So I think CO2 is an underappreciated concern. So I don't have any particular reason to think we have a problem here in RSU 26, but we should find out and fix
But
it.
part of, the assessment is just to see, just to measure, to know for our application. The reason I said earlier to keep that $40,000 amount in your head that we may have extra in the debt service line is because we didn't budget for this, because we weren't really, aware of SRF timelines. I was thinking more about the middle school application when we budgeted for this year. So this will be coming from contingency, but we know we also have this extra amount from the debt service.
Yep, so I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Haley Word for SRF as presented. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. Policies, this is the output from policy committee this week. Most of these are fairly small tweaks that were results from the federal audit for special education, but Lisa basically got told fix these.
The first one is actually a brand new, policy that they said we needed to have. It is one that MSMA had a sample policy for. We just really haven't changed anything in that, except we were able to, the thresholds were blank, and so you, as a district, fill in what your thresholds are going to be. So we just did some research around what's common, check with the auditor, and what we put here for our thresholds is the most common framework for thresholds and was approved by the auditor as a good choice.
I'll point out this is basically just accounting mumbo jumbo. This will affect the audit when we see it in February. Will not have any educational impact, but it was important to the federal government to make sure that we were doing our audit appropriately. So I'd make a motion to recognize the first read of DIDA fixed assets. Is there a second? A second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. The other two are revisions that we're proposing to pass tonight. So IHBAC, child find, we saw this just I think in June. But we updated the age range to 3 to 22, but there are a couple of smaller changes that were recommended to us and that do better conform with the current Drummond-Woodson policy.
We were just a little too fast to change ours. They came out with a recommended policy this summer.
So
But it got us in alignment, but
it's always a trade-off, as Drummond-Woodson always takes 3 to 6 months to come out with draft policy, and sometimes, like Lisa, I think correctly, wanted to have a mandate to go out to 3-year-olds ASAP, so we did it ASAP, but then the Drummond-Woodson came out and we updated it. So I would make a motion to approve the revision as presented for art policy IHBAC. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. And last one, similar policy DN. Really the only changes. So this policy's been around for a long time about getting rid of property. They wanted us to get rid of all the monetary thresholds, which would have had the board having to be informed for disposal of $1 worth of photocopies, which didn't seem viable, but I think we worked out something that should meet the needs of a federal agency, which is basically saying if it's federal funds, there's no monetary threshold. If it's not federal funds, say if it's state, local taxpayer funds, we can have some thresholds that are reasonable, which is what you see down in section G. So I would make a motion to approve the revisions to policy DN as presented. Is there a second? A second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Passes by 5-0. So now we're on to the adjustment for negotiations. I would make a motion to go into executive session under 1 MRSA 405-6D in negotiations with the labor negotiations. Is there a second? A second. Any discussion of the motion to go into executive session? All those in favor? Carries 5-0. We're going to go into executive session. Some of all property units in the dev, but we're also almost done, so your choice is down.
well, I have a key for the. I tried it.
It was great. It was great.
Oh,
Not that it matters. I just saw the chat. I had not seen it before.
sorry, yeah, not a whole lot to update. The policy subcommittee, where the policy was voted on tonight, UTC talked about 46 students in the exploratory program curriculum committee this Thursday, strategic plan leadership next Thursday. Request to talk about, technology purchases, technology equipment and what's driving those. And we had a floor open for public comment. I'm guessing who I see on Zoom is not gonna make a public comment. And our next meeting is September 23rd at 6 o'clock in the library and on Zoom. Any requests for information or follow-up?
And just note that Kevin asked for whatever you asked for, technology.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor? We're done. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
We saved your info.
Yeah, no, it's good.